and especially takes out money from the welfare basket, money which could have been spent on pens and not guns, on houses and not tanks and missiles.
From weapons spending to age-old traditions, we have a lot more lined up for you in this edition of the West Asia Post. But first, let's take a quick look at what's making the headlines across the region.
Russian President Vladimir Putin praises his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan's leadership ahead of a key election in the NATO country. Says Moscow is always ready to extend the hand of friendship to Ankara. Iranian foreign minister visits Lebanon, calls on Beirut to overcome political deadlock and elect a president. Syria condemns fresh European sanctions against individuals and entities linked to President Bashar al-Assad's government. Damascus argues the measures impeded aid to areas affected by a devastating earthquake. Amnesty International calls on Lebanon to immediately stop forcibly deporting refugees back to Syria after dozens were returned to the war-torn country as anti-Syria sentiment grows among the people.
Peace, dialogue, and truce. These are the words that are headlining West Asian politics these times. Now in the show, we have been reporting about that for several weeks now. Who's talking to whom? Which rivalries are transforming into civil ties? This week, we will talk about how Russia is trying to broker truce between Syria and Turkey. What are the larger goals? And what would the impact be? Let's take a look.
West Asia is passing through a critical phase. There are winds of change. Old foes are slowly turning a new page. They're engaging with each other in an attempt to end years of hostilities. Bahrain, UAE, Saudi, Yemen, Iran. All are meeting each other. And now, Syria and Turkey too are showing intent to engage in a dialogue. And leading the talks is Russia. The defense ministers and the intelligence chiefs of Iran, Russia, Syria and Turkey held talks. The aim is to rebuild broken ties between Turkey and Syria. Both neighbors are engaging after years of animosity. The ties between Ankara and Damascus were severed at the start of Syria's civil war in 2011. Ankara and Moscow described the engagement as constructive. Earlier, the leaders had met in December last year and had to work towards peace in the region.
Arkadaşlar bildiğiniz gibi 28 Aralık'ta Moskova'da
As you know, a meeting was held in Moscow on the 28th of December. Defense ministers and heads of intelligence from Turkey, Russia and Syria attended this meeting and we had an exchange of views. Some were mutually agreed upon. We agreed to solve certain problems and resume these meetings in the future.
Sonunda da bu toplantı devam etmesi konusunda arkadaşlarımızla beraber, muhataplarımızla beraber karar verdik.
Syria's civil war, which has left 500,000 people dead and displaced millions, an uprising against Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria 12 years ago. It turned into a full-scale civil war. Foreign powers began to take sides, splitting into pro- and anti-Assad camps. They pumped in money, weaponry, and even mercenaries. Soon, terrorist groups like Islamic State and Al-Qaeda got involved. Bustling cities today turned into ruins. Hospitals, schools, houses all reduced to dust. Cities which once were cradle to ancient civilizations today mimic apocalyptic horrors. While there are hopes of rapprochement, but things are pretty complicated. Moscow is Assad's main ally, and Russia has encouraged a reconciliation with Ankara. But Damascus demands the full withdrawal of Turkish troops for relations to be restored. Even a small step forward would give the Turkish president a much-needed talking point to woo the Turks, ahead of what is the most crucial election for him. A successful Moscow mediation would give Russian President Vladimir Putin a much-needed diplomatic clout, especially with Russia isolated internationally over its offensive in Ukraine.
This week, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan was having a live broadcast interview, a routine chat as the country is approaching its crucial polls. But something happened in the middle of the broadcast. It was cut mid-air. The reason? Erdogan's ill health. Now in the next report, we tell you what exactly happened.
I had a serious stomach flu. For a while, I wondered if it would be misunderstood if we cancelled the program. I said we promised, now we will go. We come across such situations from time to time in our busy working hours. I ask you and our audience to forgive me.
This was the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan as he fell ill during a live televised interview. The cameras didn't show Erdogan in the moments before the TV broadcast was interrupted. After the infamous interview, Erdogan called off 2 major engagements on Wednesday. These were campaign rallies as the D-Day inches closer. His cabinet, on the other hand, says there is nothing to worry about.
His health condition is well. The infectious gastroenteritis he has experienced has lessened its effect. He will continue the scheduled programs as soon as possible.
The comments are a first, since an air of uncertainty builds in Ankara surrounding Erdogan's health. Even on Thursday, the 69-year-old president attended the big Akkuyu nuclear power plant visit virtually. The plant is being built by Russia in Mersin. Russian President Vladimir Putin also attended the inauguration virtually. The video appearance represented Erdogan's effort to project health and vigor at one of the more vulnerable moments of his 2-decade rule. But he looks visibly frail as he addressed Putin and the nation from behind his presidential desk. Erdogan is expected to use the country's first ever nuclear power plant to bolster support among the Turks. Erdogan, who has been in power for more than 20 years, aims to extend his power well into the 3rd decade. For the last few weeks, he has been doing rounds, drumming support for the May 14th poll. Voting, meanwhile, has already begun before the 3.3 million Turkish citizens living overseas. The expats have until the 9th of May to cast their vote.
Well, we expect things to get better in Turkey. Let's hope for the best, that the right one comes to the top there.
The recent health scare has undoubtedly upturned Erdogan's travel schedule. It has complicated his path to a 3rd decade of rule. And Erdogan, a leader known for his love of campaigning and embrace of political fights, will not let go that easily.
Thousands of Yazidis were kidnapped when the Islamic State took over northern Iraq around a decade ago. While a significant number of them have returned, many remain missing. In the next report, we discovered the ordeal of these victims, the traumas they have been through, and the ongoing search for their families. Let's go to Iraq.
This is Khalid Talau. He is a member of Iraq's Yazidi minority and a victim of the Islamic State's atrocities. Khalid has paid some $100,000 until now to free 10 of his family members from the Islamic State terrorists, and he is still fighting to get the rest out.
ISIS has kidnapped 19 individuals from my brother and sister's family. To date, 12 of them have been liberated, and those we liberated were in exchange for sums of money amounting to about $100,000. Each person was in exchange for a certain amount of money. Until now, there are 7 missing. According to our information, 2 of whom were killed as a result of a warplane strike.
In August 2014, the Islamic State swept over Mount Sinjar, the Kurdish-speaking minority's historic home in northern Iraq. Thousands were massacred. Children were enlisted in the terror group, while women were reduced to sexual slaves. The Islamic State considers the Yazidis, who follow a non-Muslim monotheistic faith, as heretics. A few years ago, when the Ilyas family was kidnapped by the terror group, Bahar was separated from her husband Jasim and their son Ahmed. Relatives paid intermediaries nearly $22,000 to secure the release of Bahar and her 3 sisters.
Those of us who were released here are sick and suffer from both health and psychological diseases, as we witness deaths, kidnapping, torture with irons, threats to shoot people in head, and slaughtering people.
Now living in a camp for displaced people near Sharia, the 40-year-old says she has her eyes glued to the road in the hope that her husband and son will return soon. Officials say nearly 6,500 Yazidis were kidnapped from Sinjar. More than half of them have been rescued from Iraq, Syria and Turkey until now, but nearly 2,900 remain missing.
Now, for those interested in real pearls, Bahrain is the spot for shopping. White beads, natural, sourced from the ocean, have always been a backbone for the Bahraini economy. Now, this was until cheap cultured ones took over the global interest. Now, as people are moving back to climate-positive jewelry, Bahrain is preserving its age-old tradition and revamping its market. Let's take a look.
Outside every Bahrain jewelry shop, you will find an extravagant display of pearls, one with a note that says the beads are 100% natural. For the Gulf country, situated at the corner of the Arabian Peninsula, natural pearls are one of the most sustainable and ethical luxury gems. They are both conflict-free and climate-friendly. Bahrain has pearl beds, and these are larger than major world cities.
For us, this offers, I guess, limitations and maybe a challenge to be able to complete pieces, or to be able, the challenge is that we can't mass produce.
In the face of this tough challenge, Bahrain is looking to revive its traditional pearl industry, which was once the backbone of its economy. In the 1900s, when Japan started dealing with cultured pearls, the value of natural high-quality pearls started plummeting. But it is now experiencing a renaissance as customers look for a more sustainable high-value purchase. But it is not that simple. This jeweler from Bahrain says it takes a couple of years to source enough pearls to make a necklace.
One of our biggest challenges in a pearl industry or a pearl business is to create necklaces, something like what I have here in front of me, and it could take us 4 to 5 years to create a normal strand, and bigger ones can take even longer. They could take up to 10 to 12 years. So the idea is that we need to keep purchasing pearls from divers directly in order to eventually be able to complete a necklace.
Bahrain is the sole country worldwide to have banned the cultivation of artificial pearls, which have flooded the market since the 1900s. Today, young gemologists in the country scrutinize pearls using modern machinery or the naked eye.
Looks very nice growth, like tree-like structure.
The X-ray in these labs detects growth lines that distinguish natural pearls from cultured ones, often delivering a shock to those holding the assumed prized possessions.
You'd be surprised by how many clients come to Danat that have inherited pieces and are then shocked to know after the testing process that the pieces that they've inherited contain cultured pearls.
To the untrained eye, cultured pearls are indistinguishable from natural ones. Natural pearls make millions at auctions, while their cultured counterpart goes for as low as $50. But consumers buying pearls for their value are slowly moving away from the beads that harm marine life and oysters. It's a sustainable, climate-friendly outlook that has once again revived a market that was fading.
That's all we have for you on this edition of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the latest updates, developments, news and ground reports from one of the world's most volatile regions. Until then, stay safe. I am Ghadi Francis, coming to you from Beirut, Lebanon, and you're watching WION World is One.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground? At Gravitas, we don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.